Okay, hit start stream. Let's see what happens. It says we're live on the YouTube page.
Hey.
So, real quick, I don't know if there's
I'm
anyone
gonna have to
here
find a
right
link to
now.
that stream and go. I'm gonna have to tweet the link to that stream.
Yeah, I tweeted it out on the Autosaving the Day Twitter page. I'm gonna retweet that link.
All right, let me just get there. Did you tag me in it? This is gonna play really well for the arc.
Yeah.
This is one of those things that like it's fine when it's like live, but when someone's watching that again,
there we go.
That's from okay. The Auto Saving the Day account.
Yeah, I just tagged you in the one I retweeted. So.
Okay.
Oh, we got people here. Hello, everyone.
We got peoples.
Holy shit, we're back. What was my little intro thing for Auto Saving the Day, the podcast where video games and comic books are brought together. We're doing it.
Boy, you're rusty. It's been a while.
It's been like at least 5, maybe not. I think more than 5 months.
Well, it's so hard to schedule these because we're all in such wildly different time zones and have such different lives, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, like I've got school, you've got work. Josh has got.
Josh is 5 years, 5 hours in the future.
Yeah,
he's 5 hours in the future, so he's fighting the robot apocalypse that's going on over there.
You don't want to know what's going on. It's crazy.
Anyway,
not to tell you.
We got a lot of fun stuff to talk about tonight. We're talking updated thoughts on Marvel's Avengers, maybe some hype checks on that. We're talking Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. But before we get to that, I don't know if you guys remember, but a while back I said that I wanted to do like a little fun game just to kind of break the ice in the beginning of the podcast. And what that is I have a game here, right? I got a comic book game box in front of me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a back of the box, I don't know if quote, like a tagline from the back of the box. And I want to see who can first guess the game that these taglines are from. I guess I can do.
All right, that's cool.
I could do a coin flip for who goes first, right? Let me Google coin flip real quick, and don't cheat. Don't look at the chats. If
someone in the chat says that it's been 8 months since the
last
one.
Holy shit! We've all grown so much since then.
You could have a real person could have been created in that amount of time.
That's insane. All right, here we go. Coin flip. Josh, you'll be heads, and vice versa. Here we go. Flip.
Oh man, I never get head. Hey, whoa!
And I guess that holds true because heads wins for Josh. So Josh, you get the head.
Wow.
All right, so.
Just wow.
What to say about that?
First tagline. All right, so like I'll read the tagline. You get one guess, and then I'll move on. If you don't get it, I'll move on to the next tagline, and then Xavier will guess, and then it'll keep going like that.
Yeah.
The world is your weapon.
Oh man. The world is your weapon. Is it Ultimate Destruction? Hulk Ultimate Destruction.
You nailed it.
Wow.
Did you know that one too, X?
I thought it was that, but I also was like, is that Crackdown 2 or something as well? I was like, but that's not a that doesn't technically count as a superhero, I guess.
That would have
Hey,
been that would have been a nice curveball. I guess you can argue that maybe it can. I mean, you got powers. Um,
Hey, there's something to discuss.
y-
What counts as a superhero game? Does Saints Row 4 count?
uh,
Does Infamous count?
Infamous totally counts.
What about Prototype?
But no, I mean that'd be a super villain game,
Oh
right?
well, but
It's
yeah,
definitely in
but
the genre.
still, it's in the genre.
You can stretch it to like Super Mario as a superhero.
Yeah,
I mean, he's even got
there you
super in the
go.
name.
Yeah,
There's a whole conversation topic in itself. What counts as this genre?
Control, is that a superhero game?
Uh, I don't know.
Dude, have you
Does
played?
God of War count?
Have you played Control? That game is sick.
I have not.
Dude,
In
I
fact, I
loved Control.
barely heard anything about it. So maybe you it's time for you to sell me on it. What's Control even about?
Imagine psyops, but better.
Okay, all right. I have a follow-up question.
Uh-huh.
What's psyops?
Oh no! You've never heard of psyops, the PS2, the Mindgate conspiracy?
No.
Oh, dude. You know what? Look into it.
Oh
Treat
man,
yourself.
I'm showing my age now. That shit.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know what
dude, I
that
forget.
is.
You're like way younger than me. I think that you might have been like
Yeah.
2 when that game came out. Dude,
Yeah.
psyops and Second Sight. The two games that starred fucking guys with telekinetic powers, and they came out like within 2 months of each other. And I always had this like, I'm pretty sure, I mean, other people have made this like comparison, but I've always had like this rivalry between these two games, and they're both
Is that
super
like
cool.
Bugs Life and Ants or like X-Men and Doom Patrol? Just these two things that accidentally come out right next to each other
Yeah, I think so.
that are like almost the same thing. Well, even you could almost argue even like Prototype and Infamous had that issue.
Yeah, that's always a comparison I always make. But yeah,
So,
Control. Look into it. How about you, Josh? You heard anything about Control? Have you looked into that?
Well, I was holding off on your recommendation to until it got patched. So how's it running now on PS4?
Oh well, I actually haven't played it since I beat it, but there is an expansion coming out soon, I believe. So once
Very keen to play it because it looks like X-Files meets Doctor Strange.
Yeah,
which is,
yeah.
like, very much my aesthetic. So
it's a good way to play it.
everyone in the chat is talking about psyops or Control. Like they all know what these things are, and it's making me feel so dumb.
Dude, psyops. Oh, God.
just looked up psyops. I vaguely remember the box art, but I've never heard anybody talk about it for 20 years. So
You get so many powers. You get like telekinesis, pyrokinesis. You can possess guys and like pop their own head. Or you can sneak up behind them and like force their head and make them pop. And oh god, it was kind of ahead of its time in that way, where like you get all these different abilities, and it's kind of like, you know, that sandbox thing where it's like, okay, just, you know, go through this level any way you want, like force push a box and stand on it and like surf on this box that you're moving around with your telekinesis. It's pretty sick.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, dude. It's right up your alley. I'm telling you.
All right, well, I guess I'll go looking for it. If I could either go digging around at that old used game store that sells PS2 games for like $5, or I could try and like find it online. Hopefully, it's not one of those like, oh yeah, it was only had like a certain amount of copies ever made, so they run for $400 each.
Yeah, I gotta get a copy myself too. So we'll report back, I guess. Anyway, so let's jump into the first big topic, and that's Marvel's Avengers. I want to start with Marvel's Avengers. Since I think it was one of the first episodes. I think might have been the first or second episode that we talked about Marvel's Avengers. At the time, we had no idea what it was.
Disney's, Marvel, Square Enix's Avengers.
So at the time of that episode, we only had that one teaser. I didn't even think it had the name. I think we only knew it by the Avengers project. But since then,
Yeah, we know so much more now, and we only had to wait 8 months to get any information.
so since then we got the big E3 reveal. Setting up I guess like the main premise of the story where the Avengers are disbanded after this tragic event in San Francisco. We got a good look at the gameplay. How the combat is gonna be, and kind of I guess what the gameplay loop can be like. One thing I'll say is that the game looks a lot more story driven, or like cinematic, with like set pieces and these scripted events. Like there's a lot more of that than I was expecting. I don't know about you guys, but I had like in that episode I discussed that I thought this game was gonna it was gonna lean into like a Destiny like format, or the Division, where the main appeal will be like, okay, just do a whole bunch of missions and objectives, bettering your character and getting better equipment and all that. But I think there's a game in there that's gonna be for the person that wants something more like Spider-Man PS4, or more traditional single player game with cinematics and these scripted events.
I almost
more
wonder.
Uncharted-y.
Right.
I almost wonder if they've rolled back the Division-y stuff because after Anthem and like other people have tried to do that kind of, I don't know.
That format, like,
that.
has it been like universally praised or successful so far? I feel like every Destiny game so far, or like update or whatever, has been pretty heavily scrutinized.
Yeah.
Anthem is like a dumpster fire, like, and it was forgotten in a month. Like that sort of gameplay formula just doesn't seem to work so far. Like it has potential, but
you're
really
always
led with
taking
it
a
as well.
risk.
A positive example, yeah.
You're always taking a risk, because like those games, their expectation is for these games to be played for years upon years. I mean, there have been good ones. The Division and the Division 2, from what I hear, has a pretty strong community, and those games are lively. There's still people very active in them. As well as Destiny is also. I think those two are the two big ones that have been really successful with this format. Anthem, I forgot that game existed until you mentioned it 2 minutes ago, Xavier. So
everyone did.
You're always running that risk where you can have something really special, like the Division or Destiny, or you can have something that will just be dead on arrival, like Anthem. Are there any other ones that I'm forgetting?
Who also forgot who also forgot Anthem existed is BioWare.
Yeah.
They stopped supporting it that's within a year.
Yeah, that's like the worst thing you can do for a game like that, because I mean, that's kind of, the game is meant to be constantly supported, like on a day-to-day basis, kind of, right? Like
the whole model is based around, we're going to be supporting this for years and years, so like you just buy it and you can play it forever. But nope, we're done now.
So and it kind of,
how?
Yeah. For me, see, like, I want to get into a game like that, because, I mean, I think that format of game sounds cool. Like, I've never been one to, like, commit to a single game forever. You got people who, World of Warcraft and these MMOs. Like, I've always wanted to commit to a game like that, but the combat in MMOs is, not really my thing. I like the more moment-to-moment, real-time combat, and these light MMOs, as they put it, like the Division and Destiny, they're scaled back in the aspect of, there's a whole bunch of people around you and it's like this shared world. They scaled that back, I guess, so to push the moment to moment combat better. I don't know if you can have it both ways, like have this world where there's players everywhere and have totally real-time combat. Like I guess the internet, like, won't really support that, like, because it's
Well, I don't know. It's just like I like a lot of variety. I can play smaller scale, like linear stuff, something like Resident Evil 7, but I also like big crazy actiony stuff like Spider-Man
Mm.
or even the online stuff like, the Halos occasionally back when those were good. But like that gameplay formula for, Destiny and Anthem, I just felt so burned by Destiny the first time around that it's been hard for me to like get the desire to get back into one of those because Blair Farrell says in the chat that Kotaku reported that BioWare is working on Anthem 2.0 that will be what the Taken King was to Destiny. And that's a problem for me in that the game should not need an update 7 or 8 months after the fact or whatever to be awesome. Just like get it right on the first try. Ship a product that is like worth the cash. I don't want a paid DLC expansion the following year to make it playable.
Mm-hmm.
How games
So
work anymore?
yeah,
Games don't ship
I
finished
know.
anymore. You know that.
I'm sorry. I'm asking for too much. Shit, that man. I feel like I just grew up a little bit just now when you said that.
So,
There was some character development.
the whole games as a service thing, it makes me uneasy in general.
Oh yeah.
As like a my kind of anti-capitalist thing. I don't. Games shouldn't
I
be a
think
service.
I think Ross Scott of Accursed Farms did a really good like long video about that where he basically said games as a service like as a concept is fraud
Oh
and
yeah,
like
yeah.
started breaking down the legal ramifications of it
Mm-hmm.
and like started getting into contact with actual lawyers about it and is kind of making a campaign to like start fighting against that. And I have so much respect for that guy.
So I guess
But yeah, I'm glad that Avengers is not for that format. I know a lot of people are disappointed that it's just a toned down, story driven, Last of Us-y, Uncharted, just linear mission after mission thing.
Mhm.
I've also been paying so little attention to the marketing. I haven't decided yet if it's of a lack of interest or if I just want to go into the game cold. But either way, I don't even know if there's an open world aspect to it. Is there?
Yeah, I mean, they're not doing the best
World.
job describing how like the co-op, to the co-op, to how the single player, like is the main story single player. They say there are these regions, so like I'm taking like the Tomb Raider games into account since they did work on those, and I think they're gonna be like these small open world sections, like these hub worlds that have collectibles and side missions and secrets and stuff like that, which I like
Because it seems like there's like multiple cities you can go to. It's like here's like somewhere in like I guess San Francisco. I think I saw something.
that's like a
But then here's
rocky,
like
mountainous area.
somewhere where there's like a Hank Pym lab, maybe. That's the thing is like, is it the fact that I'm avoiding it so much, or is it really just that vague and obtuse?
No, because I
Something
mean,
vague.
yeah.
And
Is it
the
really being that vague about the specifics? Is it that hard to grasp what exactly they're going for?
they've kind of shown the same. They've been showing the same thing over and over again, and kind of reframing how they're showing it to make it seem like it's something new, but it never is. And I think they have been unclear in kind of marketing what the game's actually about. And when you hear anybody who isn't initiated in the world of kind of comic book games or comic books in general talk about it, like I listen to a lot of gaming podcasts, and whenever they talk about this game, as far as they're concerned, it is just another open world like Spider-Man PS4 game. And I think to like mainstream audiences, when they get something that's a little bit more esoteric and RPG elements or whatever, and it is hub worlds and it's, whatever, always online, I think that's going to play against it. I don't think people are going to take to that.
Well, I mean, those
It
RPG
wasn't
elements
communic.
were probably going to be very basic and like limp anyway, because
Yeah.
there's no like really like in your face RPGs anymore. It's all streamlined and Americanized and simplified. Like I would just look at Ultimate Alliance 3 with its RPG elements as opposed to like what the first game was, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, do you guys
So
And then
I didn't go into it with expectations that that would be a big part of it.
would you guys have preferred like a more traditional like single map open world kind of thing, or do you think it's a benefit to the game to have these regions that are set in different locations?
I would prefer regions. I think
Yeah,
not every
I
game
think
needs
that
to be
works
open
too.
world. Not every superhero game needs to be
Mhm.
open world. I will say that like no, hang on, like three-fifths of that Avengers roster are like big traversal. You know, two of them are flying characters, and then there's the Hulk who can, leap miles
Right.
at a time. So it
But
depends on the
like,
scale of those hub worlds, but
but then like,
it
what
doesn't
about
need to
Black
just
Widow
be
and
New York.
Captain America? Like, what are they gonna do?
Yeah.
And like, they're not exactly known for being super
Catch a bus.
mobile.
Catch a bus.
Yeah,
I guess you
just
can have
hitch
some
a
sort
ride
of
on a
parkour
helicopter.
system with Cap and Black
So
Widow.
just hold L2 and then just push forward, and there you
No,
go.
no. See what they gotta
You'll just
do. They
you'll
gotta
just
go
do
back.
auto cool sick
No,
tricks.
nah, dude. What they gotta do is they go back to what was it, episode 3 of Autosaving Today, where we pitched the Daredevil game, and pick up our
Yeah.
ideas of having a more involved parkour system where there's stakes and skill and timing and fucking precision to the parkour system rather than hold L2 and go.
No, no one's seen it. If there's anything I've learned about big AAA games like this is that they don't really take risks anymore, which is sad. But when it's the same as like a big budget Hollywood movie is when you're throwing around this much money for your budget, you can't really afford to be risky, which is, I guess, why stuff like Death Stranding is occasionally appreciated. It's nice to have a game there's clearly a ton of money poured into it, but it's not afraid to do something like different and weird that might turn some people off. But like, you're not gonna get that out of Avengers. Brand is too big, so it's gonna be the safest,
Yeah.
most basic mainstream game that you could probably imagine because it's just got to get that many players to make its budget back.
Yeah, and that's kind of the problem with superhero games today is that I feel like we'll never be at a point where the license is just being passed out to whatever developer just to make like in the
Yeah.
PS2 days. There'll never be something like getting, like Neversoft with the Spider-Man 2000. They were like
Or
barely
remember
known
the
developers.
Punisher game by Volition? They're just like, yeah, here, just make a Punisher game, and then they like nailed it.
And
They got
Spider-Man
like Garth
PS4,
Ennis to write the story.
Spider-Man PS4, I often, catch flack for my opinions on it, but my biggest fault with that is that it didn't take any risks, really. It was like, it did exactly what it needed to do. It like filled a brief. So
Yeah,
there was no
it did
innovation, really.
everything. It basically was just a checklist of things to please both casual fans and Spidey fans, and in that regard, it's a rousing success. I enjoyed it from both aspects. Like, if I just shut off my brain, like that has read every Spider-Man comic and just ignore that shit, I can enjoy that game even without that. But as a fan of the character, who is obnoxious and bitchy about how specific I want him to be, I also enjoyed it. So, like, but I don't know. Beyond that, it's just like, yeah, it's a pretty basic game. Didn't do anything too crazy.
Yeah, and that's kind of what's got me little nervous about it is that it might be playing it too safe with having kind of this generic single player cinematic Uncharted style gameplay. I wanted them to take risks with having the multiplayer component to it. Like, and it doesn't necessarily need to be like a games as a service type thing. I heard I think it was on the Easy Allies podcast. One of the guys there, they pitched Monster Hunt, like a Monster Hunter kind of thing. Because what's turned me off about the main campaign of the Avengers, at least from what it looks like, is that they're single player. Like it's single player missions. You know, it's like you have these missions that are dedicated to a single character. And if I'm playing an Avengers game, like I want it to be about the team, about working together, and playing off each other and teaming up and combining our powers. Because it's an Avengers game. It's like it's kind of like having an like if X-Men Legends was single player, like I mean, there've been single player X-Men games like Wolverine and X-Men Destiny and shit, but like those don't count. But like like the Avengers,
well, X-Men Destiny was also terrible.
Yeah, it was. But yeah, like I feel like an Avengers game or like an X-Men Legends type game should be about working together as the team, not like going out on your own, on these single player missions. So I think that idea of having like a Monster Hunter type concept where you're teaming up and kind of figuring out better ways to take down these like big villains, like you can have some of the Titans from the Marvel games, like the Marvel Ultimate Alliance, sometimes had these big boss fights against like Fin Fang Foom and Creature and Galactus and characters like that. Would have been a take on the Avengers.
You wanted Ultimate Alliance, but with a crazy big budget and like more 2019 appropriate gameplay.
Yeah.
That is like the ideal way this game could have turned out, and I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the ideal way that the Ultimate Alliance 3 could have gone.
Yeah, that's what I wanted from that too, because like the first one was very clearly like a pretty big budget game for its time, and like it had a lot of voice actors that were really, really cool, and it was just like a really long game with like a lot of like work put into every level, and
like, so I guess we can just jump into that now. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3.
I mean, it's hard to even figure out what to say about Avengers Project at this point, or Marvel's Avengers fucking Square Enix.
Marvel's Avengers, Disney, Square Enix.
Something I did want to just bring up with the
Project
Avengers is it's coming out in May.
Yeah.
And then we have and they've already said that there'll also be next gen versions.
Oh, did they?
The next gen
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think so. But then the next gen consoles are launching at the end of 2020.
Should we just hold off and not get it until PS5?
Is there going to be like progression transfer into the next gen versions, or I want to play it at launch, but I don't know what
yeah.
I
mean, I feel like cross progression at this point is something that's
this console generation went by way too fast.
Yeah, it feels like it.
I don't know. It's about the same amount of time as like PS3 and 360, but it feels like a quarter of that time. It's driving me crazy.
360 was long because of the financial crisis. They kind of extended it because they would have launched a new cycle around I don't know when it would have been. When did they launch? Like mid 2000s. So around 20.
It was like 2005.
Yeah, 2005.
But 2013 or at least 2014 is when we finally switched.
Yeah, around 2010 is when they would have come in, but nobody had any money in 2010, so it wasn't seen as a sound time for them to launch new consoles. So they would just kind of milk as much out and extend the console life as much as possible.
I appreciated that. I just feel like it's been like not long enough. I want like at least another 3 years.
The PS1, that was like what? That was like 95 to 2000.
Yeah, but like I don't know.
Life just goes.
Progress is on the rise. Yeah.
Look how fast this year
went
by.
Sometimes this year has been immensely slow.
Really?
hey, yeah. All right. Here's something that'll trip you out. Captain Marvel came out this year.
Oh yeah.
Didn't that feel like forever ago?
Yeah. I don't know.
Or like that feels. Or Shazam came out this year. That feels like a 2017 movie.
But then you know what's nuts? Like I think about like Man of Steel. When did Man of Steel come out? Like what, 2013? And I feel like holy shit, that movie came out 6 years ago. I feel like forever, for like my whole life I've been thinking like, man, when are we gonna get like a Superman movie? Like I still have that feeling lingering inside me, like as if it was just not that long ago. But fucking Man of Steel came out 6 years ago. You've had your Superman movie. Justice League, when was that? 3 years ago?
That's
2, almost 3.
wasn't it?
It was 2017.
No, yeah, 2026. Was it? Oh yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I was thinking of.
You see? So maybe it's
longer
not
ago.
that fast, because some stuff it's like relative. Some stuff feels like it's going by quick. Other stuff feels like it's snail's pace, gonna take forever. But
I feel like I haven't aged since 21. That's the thing.
yeah,
When people ask me how old I am, I still think, oh, I'm about 21, but no, I'm actually like getting real close to 30 now. So
I just turned 21. I don't even. Shit, I still feel 17.
Yeah, I still feel about that age too. I'm getting close to 30 myself, man. I don't want it.
Anna's
this
31.
got dark.
Hey, all right, okay. Here's some hope for you. The projected lifespans for people around this time is like getting kind of weirdly long. So like, some people around our age might live to be 110. So don't worry, you've got plenty more video games to be disappointed by. Like so many more, you can't comprehend it.
God,
Cryogenics is getting more advanced. We can.
Yeah,
we could all freeze ourselves.
Oh man, just freeze yourself. Wait like 100, come back out, and then be like, shit, they made that many Mass Effect sequels, and none of them are good.
Oh, but dude, my backlog is already bad as it is.
Can you imagine waiting 50 years just to see how video games have progressed? And it's just like, oh, okay, we finally banned microtransactions. Sweet. Now we're living in the future.
So, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. So I've played it multiple times. Xavier, you've played some of it, and Josh, you haven't played it yet. Xavier,
I played until about near the end of the raft, and I was like, I just am so bored.
So what was your biggest problem with it?
I don't even know where to start. I think the pacing just was like immensely slow. The gameplay was, I don't know, it just felt dragged out somehow. Like it felt like stuff that should take like an hour took 3. It was just driving me crazy. Like I just felt like I was doing it was just really repetitive. I felt like I was doing the same thing over and over, and the gameplay just was not engaging enough for me to really feel like I was like making any progress or having a lot of fun. It just it just has some problems with progression where stuff just is really clunky and slow. Like even that Sandman boss fight at the beginning, that was probably one of the most awkward, slow, and not fun boss fights I can recall in recent memory. And to me, what bothered me is that, like, not just graphically, but in about every way I can think of, it reminded me of a PS2 game, and like, not in like a fun, good, nostalgic way, like stuff that you don't like about PS2 games, you know?
Right.
Where it's just like stiff controls, like, you know, just really shallow cutscenes and gameplay, or like, just, I don't know, just clunky
I can
all
see
around.
where you're coming from with levels feeling really dragged out. Man, I think the level design of this game might be my biggest problem with it, because they just feel so uninspired. You know, like they're just like a bunch of hallways that they don't like. This game might as well be jump from one arena to the other and just, you know, just fight waves of enemies and then move on to the next arena. because they're just a whole bunch of like hallways that connect these arenas. There's no exploration really, and like the older games didn't really have exploration, but the levels were designed in a way where like it feels like stuff is changing, and yeah, a lot of it were just
there was
like
just enough variety to not get. There wasn't a ton of variety, but in like Ultimate Alliance 1, there was just enough to get you to like keep going. It's like, okay, after like 2 or 3 levels that are just metallic corridors, here's something fun and different. You're going to Atlantis, or like, oh, this place is a circus full of like evil clowns and robots. All right, that's fun. Or hey, you want to go fucking fight Galactus for a whole level? All right. There was enough changes that you didn't mind that there was a lot of long stretches of metallic corridors. But this one started out with like 5 straight hours of metallic corridors, and then like you go outside for like 3 seconds and then go back into more metallic corridors. And I was just like falling asleep.
And that's it, dude. That is the structure for all the levels in the game. Like it's the same structure with a different. It's just that structure with a different coat of paint. Like here's what's that place called? I think it's called the Dark Dimension or something like that. It's the Doctor Strange level, and it's just corridors, but they're surrounded by rocks this time. Or in Wakanda, more corridors, but there's trees around you and stuff, and that's all it is, dude. You go into an open room, you fight enemies, run down a hallway, and you're in another open room. And I think another thing that the old games did was that you have these little encounters with characters, and you have this dialogue. You go back and forth with them a bit, and that added a lot of charm to these games. It kind of it had memorable moments.
Were nice.
Right? Yeah. Even outside the hub worlds. Even like when you encounter the mini boss
there's even like
fights.
calm moments during like missions. Sometimes it would just stop. Like there would just not be combat for a little bit. Everyone would just be chilled out and be like, "Hey, let's talk for a bit."
You come across like a shield agent or something like that. You help him break out of a cell or something.
Or if you're playing as Deadpool, you extort him for money.
Yeah.
That was another thing. Is that the special dialogue based on which character you were playing as?
It's gone.
That was some of my favorite stuff. And is it not in Ultimate Alliance 3? I was worried it was in there. I just didn't play it enough to see it.
No, dude, it's completely gone.
So
in the most embarrassing part,
little polish is gone.
Dude, the most embarrassing part of that is that there's no special dialogue, but sometimes, like, let's say you're playing as Tony Stark or something, right? And the person you're talking to brings up Tony Stark, and then Tony Stark, you're playing as him, will bring him up as if he's talking in the third person. So they didn't even have dialogue that they thought ahead would be like, okay, let's make sure that this dialogue is applicable to any character you're playing as.
Okay, so in Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2, they actually gave special responses to get around stuff like that, but they also were just really clever about writing the auto dialogue that you can say as anybody to be neutral enough that it could feel okay for any character to say.
Mm-hmm.
But I just get this feeling that there's certain characters you can play as in Ultimate Alliance 3 where that auto dialogue just would not fit at all.
Yeah, no.
So it just seems like a little bit less careful when they wrote it.
Yeah, that's
if there's anything I can praise, it's at least that the voice cast is from what I can recall, very good. They got good people to voice it.
Yeah, I mean they got the recent big hitters. They got Yuri Lowenthal is back as Spider-Man. You got the classic Wolverine. What's his name? Bloom. Right?
Steve Blum.
Steve Blum. Yeah.
I've heard people say Bloom or Blum. It's either. Just whichever. I think Nolan North was Deadpool in it, which was nice because he hasn't done that in quite a while.
Yeah, he was. What else? The combat. How'd you feel about the combat?
I honestly remember not being very impressed, but then I also just don't remember a whole lot about it either. Like,
Hmm.
it didn't leave much of an impression on me. I felt like something about it was like missing. There were some of what I can remember. There was some stuff that felt better than the other games, and other stuff that felt like, God, I wish it was like not as slow or clunky. It was a little bit of a mixed bag, but I remember overall not being too happy.
So overall, like I think the combat is definitely an improvement from the last games because in the old games, like the combat does feel really clunky, and it's sometimes it feels like the collisions like with the environment is really off in the old games. Like when you uppercut a guy and he like floats, like he gets
Yeah,
stuck on something and he just like won't come back down. Oh, like overall the combat in 3 is a lot snappier and faster and more responsive. What they did is I like that they dumbed it down, really, like really dumbed it down, because I mean these types of games are they're not a God of War or a Devil May Cry that it's either you you should either have really good combat like a Devil May Cry or God of War, or just really super dumbed down. Because to me, like these games are kind of beat 'em ups in a way. I see them more as beat 'em ups
yeah.
than I do as RPGs. So I was like, you know what, just give me a spirit
It's a
in
beat 'em up
spirit
with
like
RP.
Double Dragon, where I'm just mashing a button and it looks really cool and it feels good and it's snappy, and yeah, and they did that, and I what I like that they did with each character is that they made the attack animations like really unique to that character, because if you remember in the old ones, like everyone had like the same uppercut move
Yeah,
or the same trip
everyone
move.
had like kind of a default fighting style, and there was just like little tiny variances. Like, okay, you all have the same punch animation, but maybe like Spider-Man will do like this type of kick, while as like Deadpool like swing his sword with that button. Like just little tweaks here and there, but
Right.
the new one I do remember it felt like everyone really got something
Yeah, like
unique to
for
them,
example,
which was nice at
like
least.
Hawkeye, all his attacks, like his normal like standard basic attack, none of them have him punch. They're all like him shooting his arrow some sort of way, and like I thought that was really cool to just take the character's fighting style and just completely encapsulate that style with their
Just build a whole
attacks.
thing around it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that gives more room to have like the really cool looking attacks be the special ones, because you've already got cool looking attacks that like might have been special attacks in the old games, but no, these are just your normal attacks in the new game, and the special attacks are like even more bombastic and cooler.
Yeah.
So I think the combat is an improvement in that regard. What really kind of what goes against the combat, which Blair just brought up, is the health system. I don't know if you got far enough into the game
Oh,
to.
I remember being frustrated with how like it felt like enemies were like, it's weird because when I use this term it'll make sense even though it's not exactly applicable here, but they felt like bullet sponges.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like every enemy takes so much damage, but like you just never feel like, I don't know. I think that was the problem, is that you just don't feel very strong.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
don't feel very super. You feel kind of lame and shitty, and like it starts feeling kind of like Diablo, where you're just having to just hammer a single button until you whittle down the health points, and you're just like, God, this doesn't feel like a fight.
yeah.
It feels like clicking a button.
So they introduce, I think they call it the stagger meter, where you got your normal red health bar for the enemy, and then you got a purple bar underneath it, and that's the stagger meter. And you won't do damage to their actual health bar to certain, and this is not for all enemies. It's like for like special like heavier enemies, but they're frequent enough that like it's a constant problem. So you got to bring down the stagger meter, but they were never clear of how it worked. Like they never explained what is the best way to bring down the stagger meter. Because sometimes you'll do the normal attack and it just doesn't do much to that stagger meter. But you switch to a different guy and like he does better damage to the stagger meter, even though those two characters might be like the same level. Like one is not way more leveled up than the other one. Like it's weird. Like I gotta sit down and figure out just what it is. Like sometimes I felt like, oh, enemies that have like slice attacks and like stab people, like Wolverine or Deadpool has a sword. Who else?
Okay, you've beaten the whole game, correct?
Yeah.
The fact that you do not know the specifics of it and you beat the game means it's not a you problem.
Yeah, exactly. The game doesn't.
If you beat the game, you would have figured it out by now. If it was like you, like the game just was not good enough at explaining how that was supposed to work.
Didn't communicate it as well, and the fusion attacks, man, like, oh, that was like probably my biggest disappointment, because the fusion attacks in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2, which is another thing, like another form of like miscommunication with the game, or like it just didn't convey the fusion move as well as Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2, because when you do a fusion attack in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2, it's clear what you're doing. You got Iron Man over here and Cap over here with his shield, and Iron Man will shoot his beam at his shield, and you can like you get this constant line of beam from Iron Man, and you're like trapping enemies in between Cap and Iron Man to do damage with that beam or whatever. Here, fusion attacks, it's hard to tell what they're even doing.
It's just kind of a clusterfuck of particle effects and explosions, and it's so hard to communicate exactly what those moves are. It might as well just be a big like flickering flash of light, and then all the enemies fall down.
Yeah, like, supposedly, like I've heard people say, oh, if you pay attention really close, you see that when Star-Lord will use his guns and he'll shoot at Storm's tornado, it'll then be a tornado of fire. But like I don't think I've actually ever seen that happen in the game. There's just so much shit going on in the screen that you don't really get to enjoy the fusion move.
Yeah, I remember that was a thing that bothered me too, is that there's like I guess it's impressive now that video games have come so long, like so far since the old one, that you can have that many character models on screen at the same time doing different stuff without crashing the game or lagging, but like when there's like 40 enemies and 4 heroes all just scrapping on the screen at once, it gets a little bit hard to pay attention or care, because then at that point it just kind of, I don't know, it just looks like an RTS game, where it's like just it's like just a crowd that you're not focusing on individual action. You're just seeing like a mountain of explosions and people crawling all over each other. It looks like a scene from World War Z. It's just like I don't know. It's hard to get engaged then, because it becomes a paradox of, yes, it's impressive to have more characters on screen, but it's also so unnecessary that it makes the action less cool.
Right. Yeah. Anything you want to say, Josh?
Well, I wanted to ask you, because when we first talked about this game last year before it came out, I think we all agreed that it was a cool idea to put that kind of gameplay on a handheld system and be able to take it on the go. But one of the things that actually made, because I don't own a Switch, and I was going to buy a Switch especially for this game, and I was ready on the launch day with the money in hand, and then I heard from you and I heard from Blair that it definitely wasn't worth buying a Switch just to play it. And that's one of the things that I was looking forward to, was playing it handheld. But then I've heard from everyone that it's not a game that you can play handheld. So I wanted to know, did you play it handheld, or did you play the whole thing docked, or what?
I did mostly docked, but yeah, running it on handheld takes a big hit. Like it looks super blurry playing it handheld. So I would try to play it docked as much as possible, because it is not pretty at all. And like I think the graphics are fine. I like the art style. A lot of people took jabs at it, saying that it looks like a mobile game, but I don't know. Like, well, it works.
It does look like basically the same as like Contest of Champions or any of the other like
That's
recent
style.
like
I mean, the thing is,
Omega.
saying something looks like a mobile game is such a stupid argument in 2019 because mobiles now can run games that look as good as console games.
Yeah,
So
no,
and it's
I
the
feel like
style of it, and I like the
that's.
style of it. It goes
I
back to
understand the
X-Men Legends.
complaint. It's just phrased wrong.
Yeah, sure. The bigger question about it for me is it does look good and the animations are really good and it overall I would say it's a high quality looking product as a game. It's got a nice user interface from everything I've seen about it. And then it's just there are things that are so baffling that they left out, like the unique dialogue and stuff like that. It kind of makes me wonder about this game. And I know that Blair in the chat has asked questions about this game about whether it was rushed out or I'm curious why this game was even made in the first place. It
Well,
seems like such
because
a
it
waste of
had
an
been.
IP.
It was like what 9 years since the last one, and like that one didn't do particularly well.
Why wait
So
9 years and bring it back and make some half-assed thing? Because
yeah, I
on
was about to
name
say
value
why
alone,
half-ass it so bad.
yeah,
It
take the
just
time to
well,
make it good enough.
I'm hesitant to use the term cash grab, but shit, dude, it felt like hey, it's just like we have the IP. Like someone just was like looking through a list of like intellectual properties that like the license had expired for from another developer, and they're like, hey, we could buy this up for real cheap since no one cares about it, and just like toss something together, just dump it onto like one console, so we don't have to spend all the money like porting it to everything. Just throw it out there after like a really quick and messy development cycle, and then just like bank off of hoping that people like the brand of Marvel enough to just buy anything with a Marvel label on it, or B will have nostalgia for the last two games, because there is a pretty big I guess it's more of a niche thing, because like when you talk about everyone's favorite superhero game, like the mainstream answer is always going to be like a Spider-Man 2 or like an Arkham game. I feel like
Spawn.
Ultimate Alliance is like number 6 on that list.
Oof.
Yeah, it's definitely
You know?
it's a fan favorite, but it's a fan favorite within a particular fandom. And
Exactly.
it seems so weird to me. If this is just a cash grab, then why make it Nintendo first party exclusive? Why go to Team Ninja, who have a generally good track record? Why they did so many things that made it seem like it was going to be a sure thing, and then put out something that was
Yeah.
the quality of a
Like,
mobile game.
It makes me wonder when you guys brought up like why Marvel Ultimate Alliance, like why Nintendo, why the exclusivity. It makes me wonder if maybe a better decision. Have you guys ever played one of those, like they had a Zelda one, a Hyrule fuck.
Hyrule Warriors?
Yeah, Hyrule Warriors. Is that the one? That it's like
That's the that's the Team Ninja one, isn't it?
are they Team Ninja?
I think.
It's what's the actual like main line? Dynasty Warriors, right? It's a Dynasty Warrior games, but like a Hyrule, a Zelda version. Is that right?
I don't really play a lot of Nintendo games, so
It makes me
I
makes me wonder if like a
I don't know.
a, a Marvel
Yeah,
Warriors
Blair, I agree.
style
It's
game.
it's in the top 10, but it's I wouldn't put it in like the top 3, Like Ultimate Alliance is yeah, like he said, it's a fan favorite, but not like,
Yeah.
to
You like
that degree.
did you like the first Ultimate Alliance the first time you played it? Because it took me like it took me like 5 years at least of playing it every now and then to get into it. But now I love it. But
It's
Yeah.
weird. You'd
it's
think I
impenetrable to
wouldn't be
newcomers, I
able
would say.
to. You'd think I wouldn't be able to enjoy it at all around the time that it came out, because I was 8 years old, and somehow I just like loved it immediately. I was like, yeah, I could be Spider-Man. I could punch people, and like I feel like a lot of like the deeper of the game, like the RPG stuff and like the character customization and the upgrades, all of that was completely lost on me, and I might have just like outright ignored it. and just played it as like just a straightforward beat 'em up, like Diego was saying. Just I'm gonna run to this location and fight everything. That was the way I played it, and in that regard, I thought it was great. It was everything I wanted it to be. And then I like played it again like a couple years later, like a teenager, and I was like, oh, look at all this other stuff I forgot about, or just didn't notice the first time. Oh, there's a way to get an ending where everyone doesn't die. How?
I remember playing Marvel Ultimate Alliance for the first time, and I thought it was all right when I first played it. The thing that turned me off about it the most was the camera style. I was never like a big fan of the top-down view as a kid.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, I kind of judged it for that. I was like, ugh, it's one of these games.
You know what? I had a really weird, specific, like, kind of rule for co-op games around that time is if me and the other person can both be on one screen, I love it. Because like Lego Marvel came out and not Lego Marvel, Lego Star Wars came out and was like, here, you can have couch co-op but not split screen, and I thought that was the coolest, most important thing ever. So I like specifically looked for any game that was like that, and Ultimate Alliance hit that niche is because there's no split screen. You and the other character have to be together the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was like playing through the co-op with like my cousin or whatever back in the day, I was just happy that we didn't have to like look at two totally different screens that were like in a weird aspect ratio with like the HUD crunched into the corners really awkwardly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just accidentally liked it a lot, even though I probably like shouldn't have.
Point I was trying to make is that the first one, when you look at it objectively, as you say, it's a bad beat 'em up. And you know, the criticism you had earlier of the third one is that it's like just corridors, and the first one is just corridors. Like there's not a lot of variation in the kind of the level design, even though there's some really good and creative boss battles and stuff like that do break up the monotony of it. But ultimately, what saves the first one for me is the RPG elements, but especially the fact that it's like the Marvel encyclopedia elements of it, and how deep the lore goes, and all the little side stuff that you can explore and find. And that's all the stuff that they left out of the third one, and that seems so stupid to me because that's what people love about the first one.
Yeah,
It's a big love letter to Marvel. They spared no expense. You know, like I remember playing that game while reading my Marvel encyclopedia that my aunt had got me like around that same year, and I like cross-referencing stuff. Like I would see a character in the game who I didn't know, and I as soon as I saw them, I would look up their name in that encyclopedia and like read through the little article, and then I would start talking to them, and it was almost like they were just like repeating back what I just read, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I know that. And then like they would be like, here's this item, and I'd be like, oh, I know what that is. That's from this article from this other character, or oh, I know where that location is related to this guy. Like it was just so deep cut lore for everything. It wasn't just surface level shit that you know from the movies. Like
yeah, exactly.
They're like, here, let's actually let's spend multiple levels on Asgard, and this is like 5 years before Thor 1 came out, or like 4 years before anyone even thought about making that. So all of that was new stuff, and was, to be honest, a little bit lost on me because I was just like, I don't know what any of this is, but they still put it in there anyway because, well, Asgard and Thor is an important part of Marvel lore. You know, you can't just leave it out because no one knows what it is.
I feel like in 2006 you could have played the first Ultimate Alliance and as a primer, and then you could go into a comic book shop and you could start reading from that point on, and you'd understand. Whereas from what I've seen of the third one, you could not do that. You couldn't play that and then go into a comic book shop and know what the fuck is going on with, you know, whatever, Immortal Hulk or whatever.
You know what? You could play Marvel Ultimate Alliance and get a primer on a bunch of MCU movies.
Exactly.
That's the big problem is, and we've talked about this before, everything is so MCU centric that it all feels generic, and like every time I see Captain America wearing a helmet with like a chin strap or whatever, I just like kind of sigh. Because I know it was in the Ultimate Comics first, but now it's just like if he's
You know
wearing
why
that,
they're
it's like
doing it,
okay,
yeah.
here more. Yeah, you know why they're doing it now.
Yeah.
Or like every time you see an X-Men character, it's just like, oh my god, what a breath of fresh air. Remember when these used to like be kind of a common thing?
When they were the
It
A-listers, when they were the
yeah
reason that these games were made in the first place,
yeah. I mean,
is for
it
Wolverine
was
and
X-Men Legends like spawned the Ultimate Alliance franchise,
What even?
but ugh, I whenever there's like Wolverine shows up in something, I'm like, oh, thank God, it's been so long, I miss him. I wonder what he's up to these days. Like X-Men feel like a group of really nice old friends you knew in high school, but you kind of fell out of touch with because you guys like all went to different colleges. So whenever you see him, it's just like, oh man, I sure do miss Beast or fucking Cyclops. Look at these guys. It's been so long.
You
this is really off topic, but do you think that when the MCU get the X-Men, they'll go back to being the headline act?
You know what?
And with Spider-Man.
I think it's gonna go back to the old days. They're gonna be whatever the MCU version is, but X-Men will become more prominent because, as we know them, the Avengers are kind of like done. They've kind of had their run, and are like most of them are retired or just being TV shows now. You know, so there's not going to be a lot of big emphasis on them going forward. I don't think. I I imagine that Kevin Feige is like just he's so excited now because he just got through with like all of these character arcs are over for these like main Avengers characters and MCU guys, and then he just barely got Fantastic Four and X-Men, which means he has like another 10 years worth of content, and he'll just make those guys the thing now. But it's gonna be different from the X-Men we know. I'm like scared. I imagine the X-Men is going to be so warped just to be different from the Fox versions, or same with Fantastic Four. It's going to be a like almost unrecognizable with just a couple of like somewhat vaguely similar things, and then the comics are going to warp to be whatever that is, and like that'll make the Fox X-Men movies be this weird time capsule of, oh yeah, remember when the X-Men used to be like this? Because they aren't anymore. You know?
Yeah. I mean, it already feels like that with the Fox X-Men. I made a video a few months ago, and it feels like those early Fox X-Men films are a time capsule of what the X-Men was like before Marvel totally dissolved the brand and kind of made it nothing. There's
Well,
nothing
yeah,
sticks out about the X-Men over the past 20 years, really. There's, you can't point to any one direction or style or tone or anything about the mutant side of the Marvel Universe.
All I remember is they briefly fought the Avengers for some reason I can't remember. Cyclops went crazy, and then the Inhumans killed all the X-Men because the MCU wanted to start pushing Inhumans like fucking crazy, because that was the only one they had the TV rights to, and they were going to make a bajillion Inhuman spin-offs and everything, and that was going to be like their mutants under the guidance of what's his name, Perlmutter something,
Ike
like
Perlmutter.
that. Ike Perlmutter, yeah. The guy who owns the TV half of Marvel was really insistent on doing all kinds of Inhuman stuff, to the point that they canceled the movie and were going to make it a TV show instead, because he was just like being really petty about it, and he wanted something. And the TV show flopped, and then like quietly in the comics, the Inhumans just faded away overnight, and no one talks about them anymore.
It's so funny because they, over those years when that was happening, the Marvel Universe did so much stuff to retroactively make the Inhumans relevant and to make Terrigen Mist relevant,
like,
and to build it into the origins of everybody.
Spreads over the whole Earth, and now everyone is in a human. Like their numbers are equal to that of mutants. In fact, they've eclipsed and overgrown the mutants. There's more Inhumans now than, and like now there's Inhumans on the Avengers. Inhuman rights, like just like completely replacing the X-Men in every way. And then when the TV show didn't work out, that just stopped instantly, and it's like there was no explanation for it. They just went away.
Poor muties.
Poor muties. Poor Inhumans. They got their like 15 minutes of fame, but it was more like 15 seconds.
Yeah, I never really had much.
So anyway, what other
you guys
stuff
brought up?
can we talk about?
I just wanted to say that you guys brought up earlier about the older Marvel Ultimate Alliance games having like that encyclopedia aspect of it, of picking up like a certain item that had history and it was in the lore of the Marvel universe. That was also completely stripped from the game. Like now, instead of all these different types of equipment that are tied to a character you can pick up, like you just get the generic flagship Marvel in-game currency of ISO 8.
Oh, fuck. It's so like so sleazy, man. It's shit is. I mean, that's the thing. Everyone was saying, "Oh, it looks like a mobile game," and I defended it, and I was like, "No, it's stylized, it's cartoony, it's comic booky, which is what I've always wanted." But then to make it ISO 8 and to whatever synergy with all the mobile games. But ISO 8 in all the mobile games is your V-Bucks. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
There's no. It's gross.
The thing that bothered me about the art style is not that it's comic booky or cartoony. It's just that it looks exactly like 3 other games that have come out recently. Like to the point where if I were to take the Star-Lord character model from all 3, like if I could port them to like Source Filmmaker or something, and then stand them up next to each other, I doubt you'd be able to tell which one is from which because it's just so samey. There's just no visual difference between any of them, and it just, I don't know, that bothers me. It makes me feel like they just bleed together too well.
Yeah.
Like I like variety. Say what you want about Insomniac's Spider-Man costume. I personally don't like it, but at least you know what it's from and it's memorable and it's unique. Or like even like the character model for Spider-Man in that, like he has just such a specific look for his like lenses and his mask and like the textures and everything that really separate him out from like even like Web of Shadows Spider-Man or like Ultimate Spider-Man. Like all these different games over the years all look very different, while as the last 3 like big Marvel flagship things on completely different platforms all look like the same game.
It also feels like they traded all, like how we were saying earlier about the encounters you can have with all the characters and have this dialogue and the mini bosses that you come across. They traded all that for having like this kind of grindy rinse and repeat kind of loop to the game, where in the form of the Infinity Trials, where you're going in and they're just combat challenges where you try to like beat your best score or do it faster and all that in trade for more ISO 8 and all those like number based RPG mechanics where you're just trying to equip the best ISO 8 to give your character stat boost and all that. But I preferred the old stuff more because it was more memorable, and with this one it just feels really repetitive, where the Infinity Trials it's the same fucking arena based levels that you've already played a whole bunch of times, and they just copied and pasted a whole bunch of times in the Infinity Trials. And then later on the game came out with this DLC pack, and it had Gauntlet mode. It was like, okay, we got something new to play with now, but no, it's essentially the same thing. It's just you're playing the same old arenas that you've already done in the story and in the Infinity Trials like 10 times, and now you're doing them again in Gauntlet mode, and it boils down to the same thing. You're just in this arena fighting the same enemies you've been fighting. And you got this other mode where each DLC pack is themed. Like the first one was Morbius was like the bad guy for the DLC pack, where it was like Curse of something.
Wait, there's missions for the DLC pack?
See, that's the thing. I thought there would be, but no. You just go into another arena, and now they're the same enemies, except they're glowing red now. So and that means that they have some sort of curse within their blood. But there's no like special dialogue that's like setting up what's happening. You just jump
Is
into
there no narrative like framing? Like, is it, like the simulator discs in the first
Yeah,
one
yeah.
had
That's what I was
like
gonna bring
dialogue at the
up.
beginning, at the end? Is
Nope.
there nothing like that at all?
Nothing like that.
Hi, I'm
You
Deadpool, and
just
this is my origin story. Here's a cool adventure I had once, and now I'm gonna fight Arcade. Like
yeah,
that
no,
stuff was cool. That flavor text was important. 'Cause
exactly.
it told you who
And
these characters were.
That's
Yeah.
not that's not a big thing to ask, is it? There was literally a dialogue box, a paragraph of
Yeah, that
of
little bit of context
dialogue.
just made it worth it. Like, yeah, you get this little intro in the beginning, and you go through a couple of corridors, and then you fight a boss. But even in the boss, there was like unique dialogue in that simulator disc, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
In this one, no, you just thrown in like the farthest the story context for the DLC pack goes. It's just the title and the description of the DLC. Like, Morbius has some sort of cursed, he put a curse on the enemies, and now they have this blood curse, and they're a little bit stronger. But it's just in the description for the DLC. It's not in the actual like gameplay.
Ugh.
And it's really lame because I think the next one is the X-Men one. What was it? I think it's maybe something with
You got the
Cable.
rights back.
And you see a little teaser for the Fantastic Four one where it's like, oh, something with Doom. So I thought, oh, how cool would it be to have maybe like a unique level set in Latveria where you get to fight Doctor Doom, and you have like this short little unique mission with new dialogue, a new cutscene, setting up Doctor Doom. It doesn't even have to be that long, like 20 minutes. Fuck, I'll even take that. But I can already tell it's just going to be the same old arena, same old enemies you've been fighting. But, you get to unlock Doctor Doom now, and you get to unlock the Fantastic Four.
Even better, you just have one line of dialogue that just calls back to the first game to have some kind of continuity between the three. But they're obviously
Oh
not
yeah,
gonna do
that's
that.
another thing that bothers me is like they never even talk about the first two games, as far as I know. What's the point of even putting a 3 in the title?
Right.
It could have just been Ultimate Alliance: The Black Order. Like, don't even try to pretend it's a sequel. It's clearly a reboot. I mean, look, Nick Fury don't look the same no more. I don't know if we're gonna go with that retcon that it's his son. Like, people don't even remember that.
Also, for the longest, excuse me, the unlockable costumes are just like shitty palette swaps. They added proper unlockable costumes now, but like nobody cares, And
they just announced that new character pack, and I was like, God, this game still exists. It's been so long.
Yeah.
Like, it came out, and then I don't know, like really quickly they came out with that new character pack that had like Moon Knight in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then like nothing for like half a year.
Yeah, and, that X-Men one is coming out soon, and then next year it's the Fantastic Four one. But it's like, why? Like, why are you like spacing them out so far? This game,
like, even like putting a new costume in Spider-Man, like right around the time Far From Home came out, felt like, oh gee, you waited too long. Like, no one's playing this anymore.
Yeah.
That's my problem with Spawn in MK11 coming out in like April next year. It's like, why? It's been a whole year.
I guess they all want to, have that model of like this continuing game, like the Fortnite thing, where the game will always be alive. It's always going. Something will always be happening. Something new is coming.
So the game is never going to be completed at release. We're going to complete it a year later.
Yeah, it's just...
Get the Mortal Kombat XL, kids! Like, even, like, games that are, like, like not even really like focused on online stuff at all. It just takes so long to get everything.
Yeah, when we were talking about Control earlier, and I feel like it's been so long since I beat that game, and the first expansion is coming out soon, and I feel like I got to
Oh,
relearn the
says in
game
the
now.
comments that NetherRealm was busted for unfair work practices, so it's taking longer so people cannot kill themselves at work. Okay, so it's for the sake of the
Okay,
developers not going insane. You know what? If that's the reasoning, then fine.
take as long as you want.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
okay.
that's reasonable because
Yeah.
like Lord knows game developers like a lot of the stuff we bitch and complain about is at like the corporate level, like decisions made by a man in a suit, not the actual like developers who's just Johnny Joe Bob at his computer who's just really excited to get open up his Maya file and start modeling more cool fucking cars with rotating spikes on the wheels. That guy's not the problem. He's just trying to make a living and do some cool stuff. We like to complain about the stuff that's made by the executive, the guy
Decision
who's just
makers.
like the decision makers, because they're the ones who are like,
Yeah.
yeah, let's make this as sleazy and scummy as possible.
I think it's interesting that games are becoming where the developers are trying to create longevity with their games by having content coming out and stuff, because simultaneously games are getting bigger and you're having to install them and they're less easy to dip into. You can't just put a disc in and play a game anymore. So if you put, when the Spider-Man costumes came out, the Fantastic Four ones, I didn't want to have to reinstall the game and do whatever updates I had to do to play it again. And also, just in general, I think our attitude to games and wider media is just so much more about disposability now. So it seems like these two things are diametrically opposed, where games want to be these humongous budgeted things that keep in raking in money for years and years and years, but they're also designed to just be played for the 8 hours that the story lasts or whatever it is, and then deleted and never thought about ever again. And no one ever talks about them again after the thing. If you look at the Ultimate Alliance 3 Reddit that was set up, that's like, there is still content coming out for this game, but that subreddit is completely dead. The most
Well,
devoted
yeah,
people on the
like
internet aren't talking about that game anymore.
even Spider-Man PS4 4 is like loud, vocal, and crazy as the hype was coming up to that game. As I kept telling everyone was going to be an issue, I said, "Okay, all right, you're gonna not talk about it 6 months later," and look what happened. Like the even the Reddit for the subreddit for Spider-Man PS4, really all it is just like occasional gameplay clips of someone doing like a cool like trick with the swinging or something. Like there's just the community for that has completely subsided. There's nothing to keep people interested and talking about it for longer than after it's like run its course. Like I appreciate what they did with the DLC for Spider-Man. That was interesting, is like parsing it out in like segments of like a couple hours each, like every month for 3 months. It felt like kind of like an episodic like Walking Dead sort of thing. And like it was fun, kind of fun speculating. Oh, I like this story thing. I wonder if that's going to lead to this in the next part. But then those are done, and then what is there after that? Well, maybe like a costume pack, like or two, and then that's it. So I don't know. I guess Spider-Man was never really meant to be sort of long-lasting thing forever, but
Oh, and
a
at the
lot
end of
of
the
other
day,
games
the free
get
costumes were
framed
free
like that.
bonuses. Like
Yeah, no,
the
that's
Spider-Verse
the cool
costumes
thing.
and the Far From Home costumes, they were there to promote a movie. At the end of the day, they weren't, you know,
Yeah,
that wasn't really to keep people playing the game. It was just a bonus. But
yeah.
it,
So I guess that's like not the perfect example. There's other games that have more like that are really promoted and like put in your face as like something that's going to be around and supported for a long time, and then they just don't really have anything to give you after the initial release. Like so there's two problems with games lately. Is the game is supposed to last forever, and like you're supposed to be able to play it forever. So it comes out as there's two things. It either comes out as completely unfinished, and then just you gotta wait a year for this to be like a final product, or it comes out totally finished, and then they'll give you like 2 extra things that are kind of small, and then you'll forget it exists. So maybe we should just like rethink the way we look at video games and stop trying to put this longevity into them as if though they're a service, because it's
Yeah,
stupid.
exactly. Well, it goes back to the Avengers thing. It's like games as a service is such an oxymoron in a way. It should be.
There's two
They-
different
they-
ways it fails.
and it'll be interesting to see what happens with Avengers, because if it has the kind of reception, you know, if that goes over like a, I don't know, a wet fart, then
It goes over like a screen door on a submarine.
yeah, exactly. You know, they've said, oh, we're going to support this for years, and there's going to be new stuff, there's going to be new heroes, and blah blah blah. You know, there's going to be new
always
story
say that.
content. Well, yeah, and they said that about Ultimate Alliance 3, and look at how that's played out. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Avengers.
I'm just curious, like, what would the story content, would that be like extra like levels to go to, like, you know, because we have all these little mini hubs that you can visit, right? Can we get like 2 or 3 more of those, or something like kind of substantial like that?
I think they did say they will be adding more regions, like not just characters but also more regions.
Okay, because that could be at least like something, you know.
Yeah,
But I don't know. What are they? What's the whole thing with new characters? Because that's something I don't see going over really well, because they have to design such like unique combat for every single character.
right, because this isn't Marvel Ultimate Alliance where you can have really dumbed down combat and, you know, just make an animation.
It's not just a template swap, you know.
Right,
like
right.
every character in those games more or less fights the same.
Let me tell you what the new characters will be. Here's what the new characters will be: War Machine,
I can see that.
U.S. Agent,
U.S. Agent, yeah.
Red Hulk.
What's
The other Black Widow.
Yeah, Yelena, whatever her name is. Yeah, I don't know.
What about Spider-Man? Shut up.
Yeah, exactly. They're not gonna make a whole web swinging mechanic and do all that shit.
No.
There's no way.
Oh, that would be fun. What if it's just like they just actually port over everything from Spider-Man PS4? Like it's just the same gameplay, just
God.
like in the Avengers environment,
That'd be so
and it just doesn't work at all. It's just a clunky, fucked up mess where it's like you can do this crazy swinging mechanics that are designed for
Just
a way bigger map
breaks
in
the
this tiny
game.
hub world.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
I would adore that.
I would love to eat my words, but I think the possibility of Spider-Man being in the Avengers games are slim to none.
Yeah, well, it's because Avengers is like cross-platform, right?
Yeah.
PlayStation does not want Insomniac Spider-Man on an Xbox console. That's particular Spider-Man. Maybe a different Spider-Man, sure, but not that one. You know? He's not going to have the white spider on his costume.
No.
He's not going to be voiced by Yuri.
No, yeah. I mean, it's fine. I don't need Spider-Man in the Avengers game. Spider-Man has had way more opportunities in gaming. Give me Doctor Strange or someone, you know?
Hell, just give me another solo Hulk game. Right?
Yeah. I did that. God.
Like just Ultimate Destruction 2. Let's go.
Oh, dude, that'd be awesome if it was just a straight up sequel.
Can you imagine what that gameplay would be like these days? Like the physics that you could put into that? Just how different that would be? Like all because like that game felt ahead of its time back then.
Yeah.
Imagine all of those same kinds of mechanics in like a modern, like, you know, a current gen setting. It would be insane. Like I can't comprehend it. Yeah.
Going to be a Switch exclusive. You You play as the Hulk. You've got to collect ISO 8.
You play as Bruce Banner for most of the game. You got to collect ISO 8 to turn into the Hulk.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right.
Okay, outside of Avengers and Marvel stuff, what's going on in the bigger world of superhero video games? Well, there was that announcement the other night, right? The announcement that Arkham fans can go fuck themselves for the 4th year in a row.
Dude, what's the deal with that, man? Why would they tease fucking the what do they call it? The owls, the Court of Owls? Like a couple months.
I don't even know if it was necessarily that. Yeah, something in September on Warner Bros. Or what was it? What's the Twitter
Brothers
account
Montreal.
that posted that? Yeah, Warner. It was WB Montreal. That's what it was. They posted that weird kind of vague thing. It had, I can't even remember what the caption was. It was something to do with knights.
Capture the night.
Capture the night. So that's pretty explicitly a Batman thing because everyone just calls Batman a knight, right? And then all these like vague symbols that somewhat kind of look like Court of Owls related.
Yeah, I think it was like Court of Owls, like League of Assassins maybe, and but yeah, I mean they were definitely Batman related. So everyone's gonna start speculating. Oh, when's the teaser coming out? Oh, the VGAs are not too far off, and Batman has had a history of making game announcements in the VGA. So it was fair to assume that it would come up in the VGA.
It wasn't like a big drastic.
Right, and here's it. Like I'm not mad about it. Like whatever. Like the game, I'm sure the game is coming. Like I mean, it'd be fucked up if the game is not even being worked on and it's not even a thing.
It's gonna be the new Half-Life.
Yeah, but like I'm sure the game is gonna happen.
To say now in a post Half-Life Alyx world,
right?
I don't know. I honestly like. I catch flack for my opinions of this, but like after Arkham Knight, I don't know if I even really want another one. If it's gonna be just like more of that. Like I would love another like Arkham City, sure, but if it's gonna be another Arkham Knight, then count me out. I don't want more Batmobile. I don't want more like open world that's unnecessarily huge with like a bajillion riddles in it and nothing else. I don't want like co-op gameplay that's like weird and half-assed, so it's not really co-op gameplay. You just kind of switch between two characters and then they have nothing to do with the story.
Besides the obvious,
Gonna be WB Montreal. It won't be another Arkham Knight or City. It'll be another Arkham Origins, is what it'll be. Which is
I'm sure they'll have
which had a bad reception anyway because that came out so close between City and Night. People were waiting for Night because they knew that Rocksteady were working on that, and it came out just a couple of years after City. I think it was like the year after, or
it came out in 2013. While
2 years
City
after
was
City,
2011. So it was very quick, and if you really look through it and like playing back to back, it feels like a big mod for Arkham City or something. Like it's just only slightly different. Like they expand the map.
Everything,
it's the same map. It's just all right. Let's put some snow on it so nobody has to notice that we didn't put that much work into it.
Yeah, that's kind of why I don't want another Arkham game, because I feel like even Origins is the one that gets pointed out a lot when they say, oh, it's too similar to City, but I feel like that Arkham games it's just gonna be another Arkham game, another free flow combat, another Predator, stealth gameplay. Like, is it time to?
They nailed it the first time, and then they're like, okay, let's just do exactly that 3 more times. And it's like, well, you gotta innovate a little bit. You gotta come up with something new, because like all the little variables and differences are just tiny things that don't really matter a whole lot. Like what's different between City and Origins is well, we gave you these gloves that shock people, or like when you're doing detective stuff you can kind of like fast forward and rewind a hologram. Those are really the only major strides. Like nothing else has really changed.
I mean it's either time for to have the an Arkham game completely be revamped, or at least have something that's different enough that can offer so many more new things. Like, I mean, I keep saying this, but having it be like a Batman Beyond set game, you know, like adapting Batman Beyond into a game, I think would do a lot in making it an Arkham game feel different. Like, you know, the map will be totally different with Neo Gotham. With its super high skyscrapers and flying cars and new technology to play with. Rocket boots, you know, will be a different form of traversal.
Yeah, like something that just, well, for one, here's like a radical idea. I don't know if you guys will be on board. All right, just take Arkham out of the title and just drop that entire fucking element. It's just a Batman game. No more Arkham stuff.
Yeah, like a reimagined Batman game
done.
is what you're saying, right? Like new combat, like new everything.
I don't even want it to be in the same timeline. I just want that series to be done.
Yeah,
just like you can have like similar gameplay.
I agree with
but
that.
I don't
dude.
want that Batman anymore. And like all this stuff, like, well, because that was the thing is they made this game that's really successful based around Arkham, and then, well, that like was more successful than we probably thought it was gonna be. So what do we do now? I guess just keep figuring out ways to attach everything to Arkham.
Yeah.
So, and then you turn Gotham into Escape from New York, and then what do you do for the third one? Okay, just make up just a bog standard Batman game, but then have like 3 references to Arkham being a thing at some point in the future or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's do that again, but then make like 2 references to Arkham existing at some point in the past. It's forced. It doesn't need to be an element. Cut it out and just move on.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's time we've had this era of Batman games, and they were great. Let's tie them up in a nice bow and move on. You know, move on. And well, besides the obvious, which is like fucking make a DC game that's not based on Batman for once. You know, give me the Flash game, give me the Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Superman. Like, I can take a break from Batman.
I mean, say what you want about the quality of the Marvel games, but they like really mixed it up. Like there's a game for a lot of different characters, like even ones who probably weren't even really like that popular. Like, you know, you got your Punisher games, or like there's all these movie tie-ins back when the MCU was starting out, or like you got a Blade game, you got there's
Ghost Rider,
Marvel Nemesis, Ghost Rider, like basically every character got like something somewhere. But there's so many DC characters that, like, can you think of any video game where you can play as the Flash and it feels good?
That GBA Flash game was alright.
Yeah, right. That's all we got. Because like Injustice doesn't count. That's Mortal Kombat with a DC skin, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's a nice tease for what could be coming up in Autosaving today. Well, what would a good Flash game
on purpose.
be?
Oh.
I did that on purpose. I didn't. I couldn't think of any other character at the moment, so I was just like, oh, Flash.
Yeah, no.
I mean, there was Superman Returns. Remember Superman Returns?
Yeah. I want to beat that game.
To.
I got to the Vandal Savage stuff, and then Mongol. I can't remember what it was. I was in an arena fighting robots, and it was very clunky.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe that game.
I mean, there was ideas, like it was ambitious, I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they didn't quite have the budget or the resources or technology at the time to pull off what they were going for, but the ideas were really solid.
Yeah, let's save it for the big series finale that'll be the Superman pitch, Superman video game
Series
pitch.
finale.
I mean, sorry, season finale. I want that's gonna be a big episode.
I was like, what? Are we just gonna stop doing these now? You mean to tell me
this was a
we're gonna not
one-shot.
do them for 8 months? That would be upsetting.
No, that's gonna be a big episode. I want to get Chris Baker on that one. I know he's excited to talk about a Superman game.
I'd like that. I think Chris Baker would be a great guest for that.
Before we wrap up today, though, Wolf Among Us season 2. Did you see that?
Oh yeah, I didn't think that would get made.
I know.
Like
that was-
that game. Of all the games I could think of that had like everything going against them, it was Wolf Among Us season 2. Like, you know, the first one was like really critically acclaimed, but wasn't necessarily like a super financial juggernaut or anything, right?
Yeah.
And then, so there wasn't that big of an incentive. It's not like Telltale started getting all these other brands that were like way more popular, like Guardians, and
Batman.
and Game of Thrones, and like
Borderlands.
like all this stuff that was way more hot because, like, you know, who the fuck is talking about Fables? Fables? Like, if it got a TV show or something, sure, but no one's making a big thing about how much they love the Fables series, so it's not like it was a priority. And then, like, on top of that, Telltale just, their, you know, not very smart business model kind of topples them, and they fall apart entirely and just stop existing.
Yeah.
And even still, Wolf Among Us is just somehow coming out. It's the little game that could.
Dude, it's the underdog. Or Underwolf.
The Underwolf, yeah!
Did you play
yeah.
Did you play Wolf Among Us, Josh?
Oh, I didn't. I'm not a big Telltale guy.
Okay.
But
It was the last Telltale
it was
game
the one that it's the one that everybody loves. So I guess
Yeah.
if they're trying to win back some favor from the fans, I suppose that it makes sense that they would try and relaunch with that one.
It's
And
just
they've
because,
probably
like,
lost
for
a
a little
lot of the
while-
licenses.
Yeah, I
They
could
probably
imagine.
lost a lot of the licenses that they had. So
You're right.
you know, that's
The
probably the
only
one that
license
DC
they
didn't
could
care
keep
about too
is-
much.
Yeah, the only license they could keep is probably the cheapest one. That's why they did it in the first place, is because, like, Walking Dead was like a success, and they're like, okay, what do we do next? Just some obscure DC comic book, right? Like, because that was a problem with Telltale for a little while, is that they sort of started relying on the brands over the actual games to sell their stuff. It's like, okay, this is Game of Thrones, and that's big right now. People will buy this, like, no matter what. We don't have to try that hard.
There's Stranger
But
Things they were going to do as well.
Oh
Yeah, and that's the thing, is people could tell that they just weren't trying very hard. They were just doing, like, the same, like, really kind of generic, you know, same story for every game, and, like, you know, same handful of voice actors, same graphics, same clunky broken ass game engine, same mechanics, same everything, just with a different skin over it every time. And, like, I've heard people compare it to the Funko Pop of video games. It's just, we have a popular brand, we'll just put this you know, skin on it, but not do anything else. So, like, that's the reason. Oh, sorry, my cat decided he wants to join in on the show. you don't.
Did your cat play The Wolf Among Us?
I think he might have been on my lap the entire time. But yeah, I am excited for Wolf Among Us because they have to actually put effort into that. Because, like, you can't. That's not just going to be a big brand that's going to sell just because, oh, it's Guardians of the Galaxy. That's big right now. People are going to buy it. Like, no one gives a fuck about Wolf Among Us or Fables except for, like, the diehard fans. So you got to actually make a good game again.
It just fit the best too for that Telltale style gameplay, you know, because you're playing as this detective, and, like, why did we need a Guardians of the Galaxy Telltale or a Game of Thrones Telltale game? Like, a lot of those just don't make sense to me. Like, it has to kind of fit with the kind of character you're playing as, where, you know, you're this detective, you're piecing clues together and shit, and you know, interacting with a crime scene and stuff like that. That's why I think that the Wolf Among
There are
Us
so many
one was
better
really good.
Marvel. There are so many better Marvel characters they could have picked to
Yeah.
make a game around.
Yeah.
You know, Jessica Jones or I mean the Defenders,
Yeah.
Daredevil. Why go with Guardians
Daredevil
of
would
the
have been
Galaxy?
perfect.
Oh, dude, you nailed it.
Because Guardians of the Galaxy was popular. That's it.
That's
Well, you know what else I thought about is, I think one of the things that I like most about Wolf Among Us is that of all of the stories that they could have picked,
Mhm.
they got like the main character from a comic that has like 70 issues, and they decided to make it a prequel to that comic. So there's not a ton of really drastic, stupid directions you could go with the story. It's not like, because that's the thing that I think I dislike most about Telltale games is this constant undercurrent of anxiety that someone's gonna ask me if I want to if I want a drink or something, and I'll say no, and then the world will blow up, or like then 15 children will die in a school bus accident 5 minutes later, and it'll go, oh, it's because you didn't take that glass of water from that guy. Like, there's already such a set end point for Wolf Among Us being the first issue of that comic that they have to kind of like rein it the fuck in and not do something stupid. So I don't have this same level of like, oh god, every character is gonna die. Oh no. Like, I can actually kind of sit down and play that one without having to like drastically overthink everything.
Yeah.
Telltale games, I'm always trying to outthink them to get the best outcome, and that makes them not fun anymore. It's like, oh, I don't want Clementine to get killed 15 different times in season 4. What do? It's just, it's not fun. It's like trying to babysit a small child who has like paper skin and glass bones, who also likes to play in traffic. You're not having fun. Like, even if the kid is really nice to you, you're just like, please don't die.
Do you think in terms of like gameplay mechanics, does Telltale need to do anything different or new with Wolf Among Us season 2?
Yes. They're gonna have to do something different with the combat than QTE. QTEs are kind of done. We've seen it. It's not a spectacle like it was in 2007. We don't care anymore.
But
Design like actual combat, maybe. Wouldn't that be cool? Like, imagine if you actually could do combat in one of those games.
Yeah, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I love that, but I mean, do adventure games have a you know, does combat have a place in adventure games like that?
Yes. And here's my example. Here's this game that I consider an adventure game. And its combat elements started off light in the series.
Heavy Rain.
No.
Okay.
Its combat elements started off really light and a little clunky to start, but became a major aspect later. But it still kind of keeps that like adventure gamey sort of like, you know, solve puzzles with obtuse, ridiculous reasoning. Is Resident Evil.
Okay.
I consider that an adventure game because if you play it and like look at it, it almost feels like what a current Telltale game feels like. It's like you get presented a problem, you gotta take this object to this location, combine it with this object, and just like come up with the dumbest, silliest puzzle solution. And then you're always walking around with fixed camera angle. And then eventually they figured out how to add combat that was actually serviceable to that while keeping that, you know, stupid puzzle solving element to it. You can evolve the game beyond what it's currently at. Like, you can add something new to the Telltale format and keep the spirit. They have to evolve because it's getting there. You have 10 games that are identical, and it's boring now, you know?
I think that the Telltale's business model was like to be a visual novel for people, for casual players who maybe aren't able to just pick up a game that's super gamey. And, you know, like, I think about people like my partner and we played Until Dawn, and that was a really good game for her to play because she isn't a video game player. So that was just all quick time events and stuff like that. So all the prompts were on screen. She didn't have to learn any mechanics and things like that.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think
that
I think the last season of The Walking Dead did start like introducing more gamey. Like I never
Yeah, they
played
definitely
it.
got more gamey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of gave up on Walking Dead, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah. No. I mean,
I think season 2, like, and I don't mean this from like any kind of like social standpoint, like any kind of point that it made. Like season 2 somehow offended me. I was just like so angry with the decisions they made creatively that I just was like, I'm done. I really don't want any more of that. Because it's like all these characters get introduced and then die 5 minutes later, or just get written out entirely and never come back, and it just felt frustrating because I couldn't get attached to anything. And the one character I was supposed to be attached to was like an obnoxious, terrible person who I didn't want anything to do with. And then the game is constantly like shoehorning you and forcing you into like feeling bad for them, or like trying to have some kind of emotional connection to them. But I'm like, no, this is supposed to be a game about choices. I'm choosing to not like this character. I stop forcing me to try to have feels for them. I don't want to. You know? Like it felt extremely linear, but like it felt like they wanted to make The Last of Us, but that doesn't work when the game has choices, cuz Last of Us is like a tragic sad story, and like this relationship is really developed because it's a game that's kind of set on such heavy rails. You know, it's they tried something that didn't work for me, and I just was not interested in any more of it because I could tell they were just going to keep doing that.
I kind of feel like that about all of the Telltale games. That's why I've never got into them. It's like it's kind of the paradox of choice. It's the more choice they give you, the less it feels like following a narrative. And then also, once you've played through it a few times, you realize that the whole choice thing was an illusion anyway. So
yeah, it's like
if that's the crux of the gameplay, then there's really no gameplay.
It's like you can choose to have like you can choose to save Harvey Dent or not at one point in like the Batman game, and the story plays out exactly the same. The only thing it affects is whether or not his face is half deformed. And you could just have Two-Face, but he just has a normal looking head.
Yeah,
it's just not as cool.
dude. I remember playing that
cares?
part, and I wanted. Okay, like, can I make Two-Face not happen? But
Yeah. No, well, you know how you could tell is because one half of his face, like even though it's the character model for normal Harvey, one half of his face looks a little droopy and weird, and his eye keeps fidgeting around wrong, and that's because it's just a reskin of the correct model, and they put all these like unique animations on his deformed face.
Yeah.
So the other model doesn't quite fit those as well, and it's like clipping wrong, and it makes the whole cutscene look stupid.
Oh no. Oh. Anyway,
I just scrolled up through the chat and saw a message from Quantum Fire that said this was a depressing episode.
yeah, we got a little more real than we usually.
Hey guys, how's everything going with the games? Well, everything's just a really like kind of scummy business decision. All the games we were excited for are kind of falling apart on us. They haven't announced anything really new to be excited for. The games that we were really excited about and having a fun time with are just kind of like we're bored with them now because they've been out for so long. It's like we're like in this like really awkward. This is that summer drought.
You know what? This is the problem, is that because superheroes and comic book stuff has become the mainstream now. Not to sound like a gatekeeping hipster or anything, which I totally am, but because that stuff has become the mainstream now, there are more people watching over these properties, and more higher budget games that have to sell better, and they have to be a sure bet, and there are longer lead times, longer development times between the games, so less of those games are coming out. Like, this has been the most disparate era of superhero video games since the PS1. You know, there are less games coming out annually starring these characters, and I would say that the hit rate is lower. You know, there's less games coming out, they're taking longer to make, the budgets are higher, and they're not even as good as they were 10 years ago. So
yeah, but they were good because they were it's like the difference between like the Joker is kind of like a weird indie movie that tries something really different versus like an Avengers movie, which is just like you know what you're getting into. It's like it's quick and easy. It's the McDonald's of movies, right?
Hmm.
So, I the PS2 was full of Jokers. The PS3 was full of like
Gamers Rise Up.
Deadpools, where it's kind of in the middle. You know, it's something that's like a little different, but it's still kind of samey. And now the PS4 thus far has been nothing but Avengers films in terms of like, you know, superhero games. It's all got to be something that's safe and easy to market and, you know, has a $1 billion put into it. And we got to make sure it'll make that billion back.
Yeah.
Boy.
Definitely see that.
No, there's a lot of bad comic book games on PS2 and 360 for sure. Yeah, no, I'm not saying all of them were great. I'm just saying that they were,
I
like,
do think they were. I think
trying
on
new
average,
things.
they were better. I do think they were. I think there was a point around in the mid 2000s where there were 3 Marvel games coming out a year, and 2 out of 3 of them were good, and then one would be a stinker. So, but at the minute, we've had one great game, if you like it, Spider-Man, and then every other Marvel game,
If you like it.
every other game of this generation, you know, has been Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, Guardians of the Galaxy, the Telltale series, you know, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. They're not well received games, really. So why not why not go back to making
they're
3 a
really
year that are,
expensive duds.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
with
there's like 4 years between them.
with the PS2 era games, like going back, I mean, it might be nostalgia and whatever, but going back, I always find something unique that stands out about the game that I like about it.
No two of them are exactly alike.
Yeah.
They all have different aesthetics, different graphical styles, different gameplay. They don't
Exactly.
they don't all have the same basic, probably really cheap and easy to render, cell shaded kind of cartoony style.
Yeah, like I went back to the Hulk game, the one based on the Ang Lee movie. Like for the longest, I thought it was a really mediocre game, but going back to it like a year or two ago, like I enjoyed it a lot more than I did the first time
Love
around.
that game.
I actually thought the stealth sequences were kind of fun.
Yeah.
I thought it was a welcome change of pace. I would
That's
not
actually
mind if
my-
that came back.
That's my favorite Hulk game over Ultimate Destruction. It's because
you know
because
what?
there's more light and shade in it.
Yeah, yeah. I think the variety helps it. I prefer Ultimate Destruction because like just the gameplay is so solid in that one. But at the same time, you could make a definite argument that prior game is also like just as good.
Yeah.
Man, remember like movie tie-in games?
Dude, I miss them.
We took them for granted.
Yeah.
Like we said, they're all just bullshit. The only good one is Spider-Man 2, and now we're like looking back and here's like 15 awesome ones.
Yeah,
From, like,
there's always something
2006.
charming about them, you know?
Like even if they're not like great story-wise, like some of them like fuck up adapting the movie, but as a game it's great. Or some of them are like better than the movie, but the game part is a little wonky. But like if you like the story, you can get over it.
Yeah, dude, like I'm really looking forward to replaying Revenge of the Sith because I remember that game being really good, like an awesome beat 'em up with like it had
Yeah,
like a co-op
I
mode,
remember that
a
too.
versus mode, it like with really solid combat and like level design.
I remember loving that. Like I didn't really play it. I watched my dad and my uncle play it because they like rented it from like the Hollywood Video or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Remember those?
Yeah.
And that was like a blast. Like I also remember the graphics looking like super awesome, and I'm sure if I looked at it now I'd be like, oh, that's not how that looked back then. But I hope that one holds up because that one I remember having good memories of. Like even back then I wasn't like too big of a fan of like episode 3.
Mm-hmm.
But like the game was like cool. It was fun.
It even did weird shit like having an alternate ending. I don't know if you
It
remember
did?
that, dude. It had an alternate
No.
ending where the battle between Obi-Wan and Anakin, if you if you go back, and I think it's like a bonus level where you play as Anakin and you actually win the fight. So you kill Obi-Wan, and you go up to Darth Sidious, and he's like handing you your new red lightsaber and shit. And he takes it and he just fucking kills Darth Sidious, and he's like, "Oh no, I'll be the fucking ruler from now on," or some shit, or something like that.
Fucking Emperor Vader.
Yeah, dude.
That shit's awesome. That's kind of what Force Unleashed did. Is like, if you go pick the wrong guy to fight at the ending, you'll get like a whole extra section of missions where you're still like, instead of heroically sacrificing yourself, instead you become Darth Vader's asshole cyborg apprentice who just runs around throughout events of the trilogy, just like ruining it and killing everyone too early.
I love that, man.
There's a video game where you, as a man in a big scary robot helmet, can hunt down and murder Luke Skywalker.
I hope I hope it holds up. Revenge of the Sith. I kind of want to make a video on it. Like, it's not exactly on brand, but I mean, I'll argue that Jedis are superheroes. You know, they got powers. They got capes.
They're heroes and they're super.
Yeah.
Shit, if Green Lantern counts, then why not Jedi? They're like kind of the same thing. It's just, we're an ancient order of peacekeepers with magic powers who live in space.
I mean, Guardians.
Fuck, Jedi are just Green Lanterns.
The Guardians of the Galaxy are literally, well, the modern incarnation is literally modeled on Star Wars. So
yeah, it's just here's a team of Han Solos.
Yeah.
So I guess wrapping up here. Anything you guys want to plug before we go? Anything you've been working on or recently that came out you want to shout out?
I don't know. Go check out whatever video I put out last. I forget now at this point. It's been that kind of month. I got a Christmassy themed video that I'm gonna try and get done before the season subsides and we all stop caring about Christmas cheer and whatnot. So I'm gonna work my butt off to get that done. So be on the lookout for that. And subscribe to Panels to Pixels.
Yeah. How about
Yeah,
you?
I did.
Subscribe to Diego for sure. Holy shit.
Yeah. I just want to say that PsyOps, the Mindgate conspiracy for PlayStation 2, is available to buy for £1.50. So that's about $2. So
nice. Hell yeah, that's in my price range. I can buy things that are less than $20. Nice. Diego, do you want to do like a co-op review again, where I review like PsyOps and you review the other thing?
Oh, dude, that'd be awesome.
You said there was another game that came out.
Yeah,
like,
Second
in the same
Sight.
month. Yeah, we do Second Sight and PsyOps back to back in one video.
Let's do it, man. I'm down.
That sounds fun. Well, I had so much fun with the Thing video that I'd like to, because that's like my first like really successful like collaboration review.
Oh,
So I want to do more of
happy to
that.
hear that. No, yeah, I definitely want to do more of those. I want to get Josh on one as well in the future. I love
Definitely.
that whole the 80s comic book, like based on horror movies or action movies. I want to do one based on RoboCop and Predator, maybe Alien. And I definitely want to get Josh on one of those, so whichever one you think would be most suitable.
yeah.
I'm always down to show up for another one of those too. Maybe I could edit the next one.
Yeah, well, we could all be in it.
What if we're all Space Marines and we do like an alien thing?
Please.
Yeah,
I
there
would
you go.
love that,
All right.
dude.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
like we could just green screen each other into one spot, and we could just start reciting lines from the movie and fucking wave around a motion tracker.
I'm definitely down. That sounds like a blast, dude.
Hell yeah!
Sounds great.
All right, cool. My people will talk to your people.
How about you, Josh? Anything you want to plug before we go?
Subscribe to Godzilla Mendoza. Subscribe to Diego. Subscribe to me. Actually, I haven't uploaded a video since Halloween because I've just been doing other things. But I do want to say thank you to people who support me on Patreon, without whom I wouldn't have been able to pay my rent this month. So I was about $100 short of my rent, so that made up the difference. So that was awesome.
Nice.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, cool.
Me at patreon.com/panels2pixels.
And subscribe to Josh, Panels to Pixels, and Godzilla Mendoza, and me. So I've been saying for the longest that I'm working on this Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 video, because and like I guess you can see the reason why. It's been such like a draining game, because I was so excited about it. I was so excited about it. Like Josh can tell you, like I was so fucking pumped for this game. And then when it came out, I was like, no, I like this. Like, this is good.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. And then like as you kept playing, you're like, yeah, I like this. I like this. This is really like
my voice just kept getting
it kept
higher.
going up. Yes, it's really good, guys. Yes, it's awesome. We're having such a great time. There's a single tear rolling down your cheek.
But yeah, I just gotta collect my thoughts on it and put it into a cohesive video. So that'll be my
as always, if you need any help on like
project.
anything, I'll do my best.
I appreciate that, man.
Because I want to see that video. I want that to come out. So like, let's make it happen.
I want to see an hour-long dissection of Ultimate Alliance 3.
Fuck yeah!
I want it to be a big
Diego
one.
doesn't upload often enough. I demand more content, sir. Do more shit.
I will, absolutely. But yeah, that'll definitely be my next big project, so look out for that. But I guess that'll do it for tonight's episode of Autosaving the Day. I don't want to say when the next one will be, but hopefully it won't be too long before we get to hang out again. No, definitely not 8 months. Definitely not 8 months. But yeah, I will say that for the next one will be a pitch, one of our classic pitch.
Yeah.
And it'll be for the Flash. So I guess
I'm gonna try and get us a theme tune. I think we need a theme tune.
Oh, that'd be sick.
That would be fun.
Yeah,
I would love that. Because like you nailed it on that other music for the Mortal Kombat thing I had you do. Thank you so much for that, by the way. That was great.
No, yeah, that was a pleasure.
Yeah.
All right, well, see you around, gang. Thanks for stopping by, loyal but small fan base. We appreciate your patronage and your attention. You're great, and we love you.
Well said, my friend. Goodbye, everyone.
I